Hello, everybody. How's everyone doing? Yes, this is Kevin Chan here, coming back to you live on the YouTube. Hello, how's everybody doing? Right, so I can see Winnie Leong, first one to pop into the YouTube channel. So I think it's working. I think it's working. Hopefully all of you start to get your notification as well. Yes, right. So yeah, the channel is restarting. You don't get too excited about it. Right, so I can see Katerina just came in. I see Pekui is around. Right, so now, yeah, right. So how is the Hui Feng doing? Right, Feng, right. So how you guys doing? Oh, good morning. Right, so now happy to see that all of you is joining in today. Yeah? Right, so we will started off today with talking a little bit about the entire idea of framework. Right, so how to realign your framework. Right, so right now I'll be talking a little bit more on the upper level of the Chinese metaphysics. Last time we talked a lot about Bazi. We're still gonna talk a lot about that. All right, so I'm gonna recreate all the contents. Yes, have to recreate all the contents. It's gonna be a long journey again. We talk about Bazi, we talk about Feng Shui, we talk about Qi, right? So in separation, we do that last time, right? So right now I'm gonna go upper a bit of a level. We're gonna talk about all the 5 arts in the Chinese metaphysics, which is the art of mountain, the art of medicine, right? So the art of divination, the art of destiny, and also the art of physiognomy, right? So that's basically the 5 art in Chinese metaphysics. So there's going to be a lot of session that I'm going to do that will incorporate all of this conceptualization, so that you guys have a higher understanding of how things work, right? So I try to link all of the 5 art together on a common, you can call framework also can, right? So you can call common understanding, right? So that you all have a bigger understanding, right? So today we talk a little bit about the entire idea of framework, right? So yeah, good morning. Right, so hello Emmer, how you doing? Hello Kelvin. All right, hello Nihilus. Right, all very new name, never seen before. Hello GB. Right, so how you guys are doing, right? So yeah, we're gonna talk about framework. So this one is from the Qigong class, right? So one of the recent Qigong class that we went through, there is this entire new, it's not a new concept, right? It's just basically something that is been happening that, I feel like it's good to adopt this, right? So which is called the art of Ming Jue, right? So later we talk a little bit about that. I've written in my, what you call the newsletter, right? So I've written a little bit about this entire idea of Ming Jue in the newsletter. So today we will, put this into actual practice. So I'll explain to you how framework is going to work and how you should be able to adopt this particular framework for your own personal advantage. Right, so take care of it. Right, so come, let's start the particular journey. Let me just shrink myself down to the smaller version. And I was trying to put you all up and see whether it worked or not. Nah, it look a bit ugly, the things, right? I think I need to do some adjustment on this to get it back into transparent. Right, so it's all right, just put it at the back first, right? So, I do have the chat screen up here, but it's not looking transparent at all. I'm trying to make it transparent. Okay, never mind. Let's do this, At least I know you guys are, around. Right, come, let's go in and take a look at this, right? So, what define a person world? How is a person world is actually defined? There's actually 3 components of influence that come and define a person world. This is how you see the world, by the way. Right, so now everybody is actually subjected to the same thing. So there are 3 what we call distinct big vintage point that you are put in from the day that you were born, right? So from the day that you were born, right? So there is always your own experience. What do you experience? So at different stages in your life, the amount of experience that you have experienced is going to be very different. Then there is going to be your parents or other people experience that is being infused onto you, right? So you're going to be infused onto you. And also there is this society and cultural experience, which is a conglomerate. You want to call it conglomerate? It is a amalgamation of how the particular time frame at that point in time, what is important, right? So all these 3 experiences play a vital role in shaping how you see the world and how you basically grew up, right? So it's actually being influenced by all of this, right? So now again, at different stages of your life, as different experience coming, some become more important, right? So some become less important. Like for example, your parent experience. So when you were small, that time when small mean that, let's say sub-teenager, below 15 years old. So your parent influence become very important. So this one, if you hear a lot of the motivational, they basically tells you, how your parent raised you, right? So like for example, if you are raised in a family whereby the parent is constantly infusing the entire idea that our family is poor, our family, cannot afford things, our family is, you need to save money, then only can survive. You see, if you grow up in this sort of environment, that is the experience that your parent has bestowed upon you, versus another parents, whereby, they tell these particular children that, hey, don't worry about much of the things, we'll take care of all of these things, you just go and, enjoy yourself, get yourself more experience, right? So you need to study, you need to see the world, you need to do, right? So you see, these two parents raising two separate child, the result is very different one, right? So because one parent encourages the children to explore, another set of parents basically hold the children down and ask the children, not to venture out to the scary world. So it's a very, it's very, very different feeling for the child, and they will grow up in a very different ways. That basically explains why you see certain things in different manner, right? So just simplistically, when something happen, why one party see it as a great opportunity, while another party see it as a hindrance or something that's very scary. Like right now, AI is basically coming out. Right, so now what is your thought on AI? Why does different people have different thought on AI? This has a lot to do with, the experience. So now like this one AI thingy, your parent did not play any role in it, because why? During your parent time, there's no such thing as AI, so they couldn't poison you with anything. And this poison comes from society and cultural experience. Right, so for you, you don't have your own AI experience yet. So we are just moving into engaging in it. Some of you might have more AI experience, like, people who are being displaced by AI. Yeah, I know those people, who lost their job because of AI. AI took over their job. Of course, their own experience is AI is bad lah. I took my job, right? So it's bad. But what about those people who are before this was very busy, but then because they are able to deploy certain AI into it, it makes their job much more easier right now. They feel like, hey, I got more time to do other things, because like a lot of those last time repetitive jobs which actually currently can be done by AI already. Right? Like for example, I know a few designers. Right, so now a few designers who actually deploy AI, right? So because AI can give you a lot of idea at the same time. Last time they need to draw one idea out, the designer need to draw one idea out and present to the client, right? That might take a week to settle. Like right now, they take a few hours only, they can get 8 different templates out. Yeah, they can do 8 different templates out. They can go and just concentrate on how to present the idea to the client, and just get the feedback from the client, see how the client want to tweak and change the idea. Then only they deploy the actual brain into developing that particular idea into something that's, it makes the entire process much more faster. There are people who are able to use AI in that particular sense, but there are people who say that, oh, AI just took my job. Because last time I, get to develop all these, what we call presentation pack with people. But right now, AI can do 8 at the same time. Right? You see, both of them are facing the same AI, but one is leveraging on it because they got good experience and not, right? So, and also the entire society and culture, now depending where you are, some places say that, AI is great. Some places say that, AI will doom you. So tell me, if you always go out to the street and every single person tells you that AI is going to bloody hell doom you, right? What do you think your experience is going to be? Right, so can you see that all this basically play a role on how you want to say how your glasses see the world? So when you have this, you actually have what we call a reference framework. All this experience, your parents' experience, other people's experience, society experience, cultural experience, your own personal experience will help you construct what you call a reference framework. So why do you need a reference framework? Because your brain actually is very lazy. Yeah, we have a very lazy brain. So I always tell a lot of people that your brain main function is to dump every single thing down around you. Yeah, because we actually receive a lot of signal from the environment every single day. So if your brain do not dumb down the number of signal that you actually receive and feel, you will go crazy. Yes, you cannot take it. So what they do is that they dump everything down. Right. So in the science world, is basically creating what we call neural path. Right. Neural path is when you repeat something a lot of time, it will automatically create that path so that anytime happen, you will automatically have that muscle memory and reflex to make decision instead of what we call thinking about it. You can imagine driving a car. I don't know how many of you actually drive a car. If you drive a car, then it's very easy. First time driving a car, very clunky. You need to take a look at the gear. Now they don't even need to take a look at the gear shift. Right, so take a look at gear shift. You need to control the petrol, control the brake. Control this, control that. A lot of things to check. Right, so a lot of things to check, a lot of things to see. That's when you first start driving. A lot of anxiety. But after a few years of driving right now, right, you cannot even feel you going into the car. Yes, you can go into the car. No, you already started the car. The car is already moving, and you don't even know what is happening. Right, so that is basically your brain already has a driving framework. This is how you drive. Right, so but then if you go into an electric car, I don't know whether how many of you have some experience of actually going and drive an electric car. It's a very different experience, at least in the beginning. So your normal car, right, you push on the petrol, right? The petrol still have to go through a very long process of reaching the what you call the drive, right? So then only be able to do the forward movement to move your car in front. But for an electric car, the moment you press on the pedal, the drive move. That particular shock, you want to call shock, you want to call shock also can. It's very different, right? So then you need to readjust because your normal car driving framework does not work in a electric car driving framework. Right? So you got two different frameworks. So every single thing that you do actually has a framework. Right? The framework has already been formed. This is how you process stuff. Right? So we have the framework. So we try to understand this particular framework right now, and it's a very, very important part of it for you to practice Chinese metaphysics. So the chart that you have, don't care whether it is a Bazi chart, whether it's a Qimeng chart, whether it's a Feng Shui chart. It is actually just a framework. Right? It's a framework that's been designed long time ago. Hello Joshua, hello Kahing, hello Erica, how are you doing? Hopefully everyone is doing fine, right? So back to this one, right? So now it's a framework that has been designed, your Qimeng chart, right? So it's a framework that has been designed for you to look at energy pattern. Right? From the energy pattern, then you are be able to pull out certain information for you to assist you in making a more informed decision of the situation. That's all we want to do only on the chart. The chart actually doesn't do magic. A lot of people have that misconception that the chart does magic. It doesn't do any magic. Right? It just assists you in forming the framework. So now depending on how you look at a framework. So let's say for example, right, example. So this is just a framework, right? So just see that, So the society experience is what we call the bigger one, right? The bigger one is the society experience. So I'm sure you have a lot of, what we call society experience type of thing. Like for example, one of these is that Chinese people are, usually destined to do business. That's like that. And then, for us in Malaysia, it's like, the Indian usually are lawyers. Right? So yeah, we have that. Right? So that's the perception that we have. So that is the society experience. Because overall, when you go out, when you take a look at it, seems like there is a easier for you to run into a Indian lawyer than any other race. So that is called societal experience, right? When you go outside, when you engage with people, it seems like a higher percentage of people of the Indian ethnicity end up in a profession of a lawyer. So when you take a look at Chinese ethnicity, there a lot of them are business people. Right? So this is called society experience. Is that true? It's true for you, right? It's true for you, and depend on the place it is. And if it compound with, let's say that your parents is also business people, right? So because when your parents is business people, their circle is all business people, you will grow up looking at business people. So now your experience also is business people. So all these three combined together, you will have the framework that are Chinese business people. Indian lawyer, right? So you have that particular perception. It's not right or wrong. It is just your worldview, right? So that, for example, if this particular place is a farmer, so you start to see that there are different framework that is working at the same time, right? They are not exclusive thing. All this framework is actually happening at the same time. So which means that when you go out and you see another person, the other person has a completely different framework than you, right? No two person have the exact same framework. So you can say that life experience is different also can, right? So you just imagine, right? So a farmer framework, somebody who is basically in a farming community, grew up in a farming community, right? So only know how to do farming. Aaron is farmer, live out in the kampong area, right? So kampong area, grew up, only know farmer. All of it is basically farmer, right? So you see that the person experience, the person framework is all going to be farming. You can you blame this particular guy? Can't, right? Everything that the fella see is through the lens of farming. So farming become very important with this particular person, right? So whereas if you see another person, as a programmer, the fella see things is going to be very different one. So tell me, if you are having a conversation with the farmer about computers, how much do you think the farmers is going to be in support of computers related stuff, as in opposed to you are having a conversation with a programmer and you're talking about computers? Is the farmer wrong or the programmer right? So but what about when you are in a talking about a vegetable, right? The programmer knows shit about vegetable. Correct or not? The programmer know nothing about vegetable. The fellow is not good at vegetable. So if you're gonna have a vegetable conversation, right? So if you are talking to the programmer, you are not gonna have good experience talking to a programmer, right? Can you see that a farmer work frame and also a programmer work frame is gonna be different? There are no right, no wrong. I just tell you, a lot of people think that this is right way to think, this is wrong way to think. There's no right, there's no wrong. So same thing also, reading Bazi. There's no right way to read Bazi. Achievement chart also, there's no right way to read the achievement chart. Feng Shui also, there's actually no right way to read the Feng Shui. It's chart is just a chart. It's just give you information. So if you have a different framework at that point in time, what you read is going to be very different. Right? So like for example, if you have achievement chart, if you have somebody who is just having a very challenging time with relationship and you ask the fella to read the achievement chart, the fella is going to read everything negative. Makes sense, right? If the fella is having a wonderful time in relationship and you throw the exact same achievement chart to this particular person, the fella is going to read it as wonderful. You don't blame the two particular person because their framework is different, right? But today I'm gonna try and convince you that there is another way to do this, and this is a much better way. Like for example, farmer programmer who is wrong. So right now, I'm talking to you about galactic trader. Now this thing haven't existed yet. There are no galactic trader in the universe, but do you think there's going to be a galactic trader one day? Yeah, I don't know. We're gonna travel space. Probably not my lifetime. Right, probably not matter. I confirm to you another 20 years, which we're gonna go into the period one. Now, period one is a period of travel. Star number one actually represents traveling. So it's the water star. Last time is boat lah. Right, last time is boat crossing the sea. So right now, boat crossing the sea is not something that you want to do. So we're gonna talk about intergalactic travel in period one. So period one is actually the time whereby intergalactic travel, which means that we'll be able to go outside of our familiar galaxy, called galaxy or called solar system, and to probably meet up with something else. It's gonna work. So tell me, is the galactic trader framework a wrong framework? No, it's not wrong framework. So farmer is good in farming framework, the fella win. A programmer is going to good in programming framework, the fella win. So a galactic trader is going to be galactic trader. So can you see that they are all mutually together type of framework? No, so because there's galactic trader doesn't say that the farmer is wrong, because there's farmer does not say the programmer is wrong. They are all wrong. They are all right in their area. But a lot of people fail to see this. Many people see that their framework then is only their framework. Other people framework are wrong. That's how generally people work. And this is why a lot of people suffer. Because why? They're trying to make other people framework as their framework. They are trying to impose their framework onto another person. That is why you suffer. If you start to stop doing that and start to have that view of, oh, this particular person has a farmer framework on them. And you start to see that, hey, this particular person is having a programmer framework. Whereas I am having a galactic trader framework. Right? So if you start to see things in this particular manner, then you don't have what we call differences. You only know that, okay, the fella is operating in a different area. Then you can start to try to see that for this particular farmer, why is this particular farmer processing things in this particular manner? So when you receive a chart, you can start to do that, especially Bazi chart. Especially Bazi chart, when you take a look at it, right, you straight away will know that, this is how this particular person processes information due to how the Bazi is basically working. So in simple terms is that a person with high resource is going to process the same relationship in a very different manner from a person who has very high wealth. For relationship, brain processing, type of, so you both of them see relationship, see money, see whatever it is in a very different manner. So you guys start to understand that, oh, yes, this structure people tend to go that direction. This structure people tend to go that particular direction. Right? So there's just framework differences, and the charts give you a little bit of an easier time for you to know that at this current moment, what framework are you looking at? Right? So once you start to understand, then it's easier for you to do the entire planning and like this is just an example, right? This is just an example, right? So don't take this as like the holy grail of thing, right? So you just say that let's say a normal person is gonna be very fair, right? So the person is gonna spend 25% of his time thinking, doing, planning about health-related matter, right? So your gym, you're running around, right now Olympic just what we call ended, right? So his fella is going to have 25% of time thinking of how to go to the next Olympic. I got next 4 years to train to go to the Olympic, right? So because why this particular year's Olympic, you see a lot of people that is not very qualified one. Suddenly appear and then win medal. So it give you, it give you that particular thing that, if this particular fella can do it, I can also do. Right, so like the 51 years old gun shooter, the gun shooter. Now, the fella I think is the most publicized, what we call Olympian for this particular season. I think everybody of you know the gun shooter, Turkish gun shooter. Right? Just come in, pick up the gun, shoot, put it back down, then ciao. It's like effortless to you. Right, so if you have that, maybe that's your 25%, and then talk about 25%, thinking about money related, wealth building related. 25%, is relationship, and another 25% is growth, right? So this one is like one way of thinking of things, right? So now this is a framework, right? This is a framework whereby it's 25% of everything. Right, so it's normal, right? So now you can have different things, right? So let's say you want to talk about money, you want to talk about spirituality, it can be spirituality, it doesn't matter, right? So if you let's say that kids is important to you more than relationship, then you can throw relationship away, you can put kids there. Doesn't matter. But everybody has a framework, of somewhat that look like this, that is, going around. Agree or not? I think everybody have that particular agreement, right? So you have one of these. So the challenge is, can you understand that particular person framework? Can you see the particular person framework? Are you willing to go and have a look at that particular person framework? If you are willing to, you take a look at it. This is called stepping into another person's shoe. It's called that, right? So it's about understanding the other person's perception. That's what they say, right? So, but generally, that is the thing that we are doing. So when we're talking about realigning the framework, is your own personal ability, or I usually call willingness, for you to understand that the other party is just operating on a very different percentage and category than you. It's not saying that your categorizing is correct. It's not saying that the other person categorizing is wrong. It's just that That is the state of it. So your parent would have a very different, like for example, my parents era, their time, saving is very important. Up until today, my dad is still not, oh, no, I need to save money, save this, save that, right? So my era is different already. My era, basically if you save the conventional saving, right, your, what we call your inflation would have killed your bank account. The more you save, the more poorer you actually become right now, because the inflation is way much more higher than the percentage of the saving is giving you. Right, so if you do, it's better for you to buy certain asset that you're going to use to create income. That is actually a better way of spending your money than saving, right? So you still need to save. You need to save for emergency purpose. But after you reach the level of emergency purpose, any additional saving that you go into your saving actually is not helpful to you. It's time for you to invest. So when I talk about invest, is invest into yourself, go and learn some new skill set, right? So like for example, the Bazi Feng Shui was an investment that I consciously made about a decade ago, right? So to learn all these things up, that was an investment. I have to put in money. It's not cheap some more, right? But today I am using this particular skill set to earn money, so it's a good investment, right? So I've also invested money into getting what we call this trainer certification. So in Malaysia, if you want to do certain business, right, so basically corporate training, right? So corporate training, we have this thing called the what we call this, the Human Resource Development Fund, right? So it's an organization that forcefully take money from company, lock the money, and tell the company that you can only use this particular money for training, and for you to access this money, right? So access this money, you need to be a certain club's trainer. So I joined the clubs last time. Also, so right now I can use that club certificate to go and train corporate, which is what I'm doing, right? So and that was an investment back then. Right now it is a tool to generate income for me. So can you see, right? So if I were to just save the money and not invest it into doing that, I wouldn't be able to access the income right now. Right? Makes sense, right? So framework here makes sense. Right? So let's take a look at it, right? So now if you take a look at Bazi, right? So if you take a look at Bazi, right? So now Bazi very simple, Bazi give you something that look like this. Right? So for a lot of people, when they look at it, it's like, oh, no, I don't understand. Of course you don't understand or never studied. That one is very normal. You don't understand, it's normal, right? So Bazi is just very simple thing. It is your birth date, right? So it's your birth date written in the old Chinese solar calendar method. That's it. It's just written in the old Chinese solar calendar method. So Chinese solar calendar uses a 60 pillar system, right? So then you have pillar, right? So you got your year, which is the year that you are born in 60 pillar language. So like for example, the example right now is called Jiachen. Jiachen basically is this year, by the way, right? So then you got your month, which is Ren-Sen. Ren-Sen is this particular month, by the way. Right, then you got your Kui Mao, right? So Kui Mao is not this particular day, it's the day that I was making the slide, right? So and then you got your hour, which is a Xingyu, right? So nothing much, it's still year, month, day, and hour. So you just need to understand that in the Bazi system, the framework on the Bazi, at least the guy who made this, the guy you want to call invented, discovered, rearranged, whatever term that you want to call it, doesn't matter, right? So it says that there is 4 areas in a person's life that is important, which is namely the year, month, day, and hour. So each of them govern an aspect of your life. So the year govern anything that has to do with the most outer layer of your life, which is what we call your social circle. Right? So your social circle, things that have to do with how you engage with your friend, per se, your relative, right? So last time in the olden day, relative is very important, super important. How you engage with the general society is basically all governed by the year, So whatever your engagement is. So a lot of time years, you can call it as your reputation. How you see the world, how the world see you, yada, yada. It's all years. So anything that happened to your years is a signal to tell you that there are changes or there are challenges, there are growth opportunity that's basically being presented to you in that particular area. Now, whether you want to develop, you don't want to develop, that's a different question to ask. But it just tell you that, there is opportunity there or there are challenges there that you need to do. right? So like the month, talk a lot about people who are much more closer to you. Much more closer mean that their level is like your level, right? Social status, mental capacity, the way that you guys do things are almost the same level. So usually we call peers. We call peers level people, right? So you also talk about people who have higher status than you. Higher status than you mean your parent, your bosses. In the olden day, emperor, government, all those things called higher status. So the month actually govern your conduct. Yeah, how you do things, right? How you do things, how you get things done is basically the month, right? So that's why we call that a career palace. So if you are interested in things to decipher things that has to do with your conduct, your advantages when it comes to doing what sort of work, right? So that's all has to do with career, then you go and study the month. It's just a framework, right? So the Bazi chart is just a framework. So you start to understand that, oh, this is how I see work. Oh, this sort of work gives me comfort. Oh, this sort of work stress me. Right? But for a different person, the work that bloody hell stress you out is actually something that excites you. Like for me, when I look at the Olympic, it's actually very stressful to me when looking at the Olympic, because I'm not somebody who likes sports. Okay? Yeah, because I'm crap at sports. Then when you go and you have somebody who loves the sport, to them it's very relaxing looking at the Olympic one. It's like, oh, very excited, it's so inspiring. To me, I look at them, it's like, this is so torturing. Right? So like for example, the what we call the water diving one, from China, the 17 years old one. Wow, perfect dive, there's not even a single splash of water, down there. Right, so to me, it's that so sad. The fellow don't know how to do anything else except diving. Right, her life is just diving. That's it. I don't know whether you've seen the video that talk about her training regime. Brutal, yeah. Right, so 17 years old have to go through so much brutality. Just for you guys to get entertained to see her jump into the pool and then go float. That's it. And then I don't know. I don't know how she's gonna readjust back into the society. Once she is not diving anymore. So you see, the way I see things and the way you see things and somebody else see things is very different. Right? So it has to do your Bazi chart actually give you a hint of how you actually see things. Right? So that's why it's interesting for you to understand the Bazi. Right? So you can see the Bazi chart is actually just giving you a framework. Right, so once you read the Bazi chart, you start to understand, oh, this person view things from this particular direction. Right, so it gives you a tip. So when you know that this person view things from this particular direction, you can start to adjust yours. Don't adjust theirs. There's no way for you to adjust other people's framework. Man. You can only adjust your framework. Your framework is under your control. You can, like Lego, you can take certain things out and put certain things back in. You can actually redesign your own personal framework. Once you have the 明觉 realization, then you can start to redesign it. But if you have not have the realization yet, it cannot. Very difficult for you to make the adjustment. You start to blame everything outside. Right? So you got those people who like to blame everything outside, right? They have no awareness of their framework. Right? They may have some awareness of other people's framework. So let's take a look. Right? Do you think that they got people, their framework look like this one? Like, everything is relationship. They have magnified the relationship part so big. So this one generally is somebody who just lost their partner, just got dumped by their girlfriend. They look like this. Their framework look like this. Yes, automatically somebody who just lost their girlfriend, the framework actually look like this one. Yeah, so it's like, oh no, without that particular girl, I'm gonna die. So everything is about this particular. Now it can be girl, it can be guy, same thing, right? So you're gonna watch enough of the Taiwanese movie, right? So I don't know about Korean movie, didn't watch a lot, right? So Taiwanese movie was the time that I was watching. Oh no, epic, must be this particular guy. If you don't have this particular guy, I would die, This is how the framework look like, like almost 80% of it is basically, relationship. Yeah, got people who's like that. I don't know whether, you guys got any experience of people who's like that, everything is relationship. It's love. Love is important. Right? God know people who is like that. Is this wrong? For his world is right one, for that particular person world is correct. It's not wrong. But you can't change this one. No? You have to go and change it. So what happens when you are dealing with this sort of third person? So now you don't just talk about relationship. There are people who are just very extreme with just a lot of things. They're just very extreme with a lot of things. So because why? In that particular person's framework, that part has been magnified so large. Magnified by who? So again, right? Magnified by your own experience. It's magnified by your parents' influence. It's magnified by the cultural thing, right? So like for example, those Olympian, the Olympian usually has pretty sorry to the fellow Olympian parents. Their parents usually are not very helpful. It's like, oh no, they tell them the Olympic is everything. You have to there. It's like you fail the family if you don't win Olympic. Right? So don't tell me, do you think that they got very good experience when you talk about Olympics? I don't think so, right? So, but the Olympic has been blown up so big in their life, and because they spend so much time together with the rest of the people who also want to make it in Olympic. That is the societal experience. So that particular world is just Olympic. There's nothing else. The brain only has Olympic into it. So it's like the same with people who is stuck in a relationship or stuck in a relationship loop, relationship cycle. The brain are all just relationship. And further, you can actually look at it and start to find out that in this particular period, this particular person is a little bit too much on relationship. Right? Hello, CEO, how are you doing? Right? So now this is when you just want to have a tips. When your day pillar, which is your spouse palace, is going through some clashes or going through some combination, and that is when your brain start to over focus on relationship. Right? So like for example, if you're a month, right, so which is your career going through clashes or going through some combine, right? So in your month, career becomes super important. Right? This is when your career become blown up and everything is like career. Right? So maybe when your year is going through that, it's like social circle, your face, your reputation, everything is reputation. Right? You can have that particular tips when you take a look at it. Oh, this person is putting too much energy on the reputation side, and I understand. What happened is that the year pillar is going through certain interaction that this particular person don't know how to process. Right? Now you can assist this particular person to see clearly what is happening. Then the fellow can tweak the framework, or else cannot. Or else it's going to be very difficult. Right? So this is what you're going to do, right? Year clashing day pillar means relationship need so much energy. It actually just means that relationship become a focus point because the energy there is moving. Right? The energy there is basically moving. Right? So when the energy is moving, your attention shift to that. Right? It's like you just imagine that you are in a movie theater. Everybody sitting down, no one moving, right? Suddenly got one fella stand up, right? Everybody attention go to this particular person, right? It's like that, right? So when you pass the chart got movement, that time your attention also go there, right? So it's pretty simple one, right? So now, this one is just an example for you, somebody like relationship, everything. Right? So now have you seen any somebody whereby their attention is all job one? Most people is this one, right? In terms of money, most people framework is this. Unfortunately, their only income is the job. Okay, job is their only income, right? So now you start to understand when a person's job is the only income, the fella we're gonna have a bit more opinion when you talk about job. Correct or not? The fella is gonna have a little bit more opinion, right? So if you talk about people who job 100% of income and then you throw in AI into it, right? Of course, the fella is going to be pissed off, right? Before this, it's very difficult for you to understand, why is this particular creature so pissed off about AI? Then you understand that because that job is his 100% income and that is the only job he know how to do. That is the only way he know how to make money. Now you start to understand that, it is actually completely collapsing his framework. So which means that, if AI took over his job, his 100% income, just went into smoke. And if you compare to a person who's income view look like this. The fella got a little bit or more multiple different income. And when AI come in, the AI is gonna wipe up the 1% income of him. It's like, okay lah, wipe lah. Understand or not? Right? So can you see that these two person has very, very different way to see his relationship with money. Okay, right? His relationship with money. Right. So like this one, if you take a look at the Bazi chart, it may be somebody who's the wealth star is not really that prominent. Whereas just now, the 100% one, it may be somebody where wealth star is super prominent. So when wealth star super prominent, the fella is more geared towards this entire idea of contributing and making a difference. Right. So when you're a bit more dispersed, you have other priority. It's like you got other things to worry about. It's not just that. Right. So when you have multiple sources of income, right, the way that you see money also is different. Yeah, correct. Right. You can see that 2% framework change. So your task is that could you understand their framework? Right, Bazi is a good way for you to take a look at no, this particular viewpoint is like this. This is how the particular person process this sort of information. That's why the fella come into conclusion. Like the other day, I just went and consult with people, right? So what happened is that the other person is very strong resource profile. Then my colleague was asking, why do you spend so much time talking to this particular person where other people, you just on time kill the fella off? Because I tell you that because this is a resource person. Resource person need time. Give them fella no more time lah. That's it only ma. Right? So the resource person more happy. Yes, more happy after talking. The fella need time. Right? Some resource people need a lot of time. Until I also don't have patience. Right? But I understand, this fella is a resource person, so you are working within your normal parameter. I understand what is your normal parameter. Doesn't mean that I have to agree with your normal parameter. I also understand what is my normal parameter. So I'm willing to adjust my normal parameter to match your normal parameter for certain amount of distance. It's fine for me. So that's why sometimes some client I'm willing to give you more time because I know this is how you work. Right? So if I know that a particular client is the cut short type of client, don't want to then cut short. Right? No need to do everything one, right? So resource person here overthinking sometimes more willpower or 7 killing. 7 killing can. Wealth would be a little bit more difficult to swallow because wealth is a countering energy. So countering energy anyhow is very threatening, right? So it's super threatening. Right? So if you want to reduce the overthinking, it's actually using companion star. Right, so resource star produce companion. Companion star mean that you have more people having the same thoughts actually cut down the time of that you need to think. So which means that when you talk about something, the person also have the same thought. That's companion star. And so when everybody have the same thought, you have to think that everybody is doing this cannot be wrong one, but it also can be wrong. But it does elevate your things. To you, it's called compassion. The other person understand me. Yeah, that's what resource star want. The resource star always want other people understanding. Other people understand. So not easy to deal with a wealth star person. But anyway, you guys understand what I'm trying to talk to you. When you talk about framework adjustment, everybody got different framework. Some people just think a lot. Right, so some people think just super a lot. Right, so let's take a look at right. So now when you are out. Right, so you only play now. Generally, people only know two roles. You are either the actor or the audience. Yes, you only got two roles only. You're either the actor or the audience. A lot of people never get access to becoming a director. Right, so your actor means that you are in the trench doing the thing. So most of the time we are in a act. We are actor. You go your office, you are acting. You go home, you are acting. You go out to the street, you are acting. Right? So you're acting to your character. So it's like you have a character. So now you see actor. So when the actor is in their role, you believe them to be in their role one, right? So it's like you're watching the what we call doctor show. During my time it was Doogie Howser MD. die, right? You go, oh, so old one, this particular person. So the other MD was it's the teenager junior doctor genius thingy, right? So then, a more recent was House, right? So, it was a doctor show, these people, do you think that the actor is actual doctor? No, they're not actual doctor. Right? But when the time that they play the doctor role, that time they believe that they are doctor one. The actor, when they play the role, they're actually in the role, they actually believe that they are doctor. Right? But then when you are so we are the audience, we know what is happening now, we're enjoying it. So when you are in the audience, the one thing is that in audience means that you are not able to participate in the direction of the show. That is called an audience. So that's why audience is a little bit more awake. So we call 醒觉, right? So actor is 感觉is feeling. So you immerse, right? So when you so that's why a person who is in love just now, a person who is in love, the fellow is an actor inside there, So the fellow is fully immersed. So it's normal for the particular person to actually have that particular brain full of flooded with that dopamine. Dopamine is for happy, by the way. So sadness, I forgot is what. Anyway, right? So for that particular instance, because the fellow is the actor, he is immersed into that particular situation. You cannot blame that particular person to be so hopeless. Because you are at an audience level. You're at the audience level, you got 醒觉, so you are awake. You see the situation. Right? And audience see the situation. They are not in the act. You see the situation, so it's a bit different. But audience cannot participate. You can see, you can't participate in it. You can't touch it. Right? You can't change the course of the show. You can only scream there, the killer is behind you. Then you can say that, this particular friend is gonna sell you out. So that's why when you're audience, you look at other people's situation, you have a lot of critics and comments. But when I throw you into the actor role, you are as hopeless as the other guy. Yes, correct, right? So when you see your friends, what you call lose the love, and Pete. 失戀, Cantonese called 失戀, right? So the fellow is hopeless. When you 失戀, that time you are also equally hopeless. Yeah, because when you see your friend, you are an audience, so you got awareness. So now the level I want you to get is to get into the director chair. My director chair is very different really. Director chair, the director understand the actor. The director need to understand the character one. Right? Before they film the character, the fellow need to understand the character. Right? The director need to have that particular feeling. I need you to like this. I need you to like this. Because at the same time, the director also understands the audience. I want the audience to have this particular feeling right now. So you have to act in this particular manner. Then only you'll be able to bring out that particular feeling, emotion that will affect the audience in such a manner. Only the director can do this. The director is in full control of the show and is in full control of the result. Now, once you reach this particular level, you can do a lot of redesigning of the show. This is where we want to go, right? So now when you redesign the show at that time, then you can pop yourself into the actor role. At the same time, when you are in the actor role, right, you are not in immersion already. Right, 明觉 is basically a higher level of awareness. Right, so very difficult to find an actual English word to represent 明觉. I'll just tell you first. Right, the nearest one is actually forgot already. Never mind, when I remember it, I'll tell you again. Right, so but anyway, right, so you have that particular awareness of what is happening. You know it, and when you go back into the actor or the audience mode, you still keep that particular clearness that this is what I want to achieve. This is how the script is supposed to be run. So I want you to move yourself into the director role. Right? So for you to move yourself into the director mode, first thing you need to do is that you need to understand framework. You need to understand different people got different framework. You need to understand that you have a framework. You need to know that somebody just overblown their framework into one corner. Right? So you have to understand that there's nothing wrong with their framework. Right? But Is it a way for you to adjust? The framework can be adjusted. Why not just tell you first the framework? Right, so let's take a look, right? So now this is normal one. Just now I tell you, it's normal. Right, so again, the category of stuff, you can change it, doesn't matter. If you don't like health, just change it to something else, doesn't matter, right? It's just stuff that you're in, and then there is a percentage of energy and time that you place into this. So in Bazi world, the 4 pillar is basically your social circle, your work, personal relationship, and your future building direction. And that's basically the 4 pillar, right? So in Bazi, they say that your reputation is important, money is important. It's actually your contribution, what you produce, how you put things on the table is important. Your personal relationship is important. How you build your future is important. How you build our future. That's Bazi point of view. The 4 core pillar of Bazi is basically that. So you start to understand that, and then you start to have a picture of this particular person framework. Right? Then it start to get interesting, right? So this particular framework, right? So now can the framework be much bigger? Yeah, the framework can be much bigger. So which means that you got other thing to worry about. Right? So like just now, for example, is that the relationship got overblown. Right? So right? So now people say, oh no, without this particular person, whatever this, right? So now just recently, I moved into this particular phase. You want to say good, you want to say bad, I don't know, whereby a lot of my senior mean my mom, my dad's levels friend, their friends start dropping like flies, which is normal. My mom is already like 80 over years old already. Okay, my mom, dad both is the 80 range already. So 80 range is very normal to receive phone call from other friend of theirs to inform them that this particular friends as ours is just passed away. Right, so like me, like last month only, my Taiku, right? So Taiku is my brother's sister's aunts, right? Just went into ICU, got blood infection. Went into ICU the next day, bye bye, gone. Yeah, like that. Yeah, it happened more and more, right? So now you see, when you talk about this particular girl, is very important to me. Have you ever thought that the particular thing that your parent is still alive, healthy, and you are telling me this particular girl is important? You need to do adjustment. yeah, right? So now people say, it seems to spend a lot of time with your parent. I bring my mom here, bring my mom there, eat this, eat that, because why? I've seen enough of the rest of her circle all drop like flies. Right? Why are you gonna wait? Am I still gonna spend time on that girl? Is very important right now. No lah, I don't spend time with my mom first. Right? That girl is going to be alive for a long time. Next time when I come back and settle you. You understand or not? When my framework grow bigger, this is called growing the framework bigger. Last time I got one framework only, relationship. But right now, I got different framework. One framework probably is about money. How to grow money, how to do, what about, my people, has to do with money, friends who do money. So all those is framework. Did you take care of that? It's, Cantonese only in Chinsang more. Right? Money haven't settled, right? Money haven't settled, then, is this particular girl still that important? Right? Can you see that the other thing go in, the other thing goes in, the percentage of energy that you invest into that particular growth of yours is going to dissipate. Right? This is how you change your framework. You change your framework by bringing other important stuff into your life. It's not bringing in, it's actually just activating. They are all there to begin with. Right? A person focus on things that you touch. If you 24/7 always touching the particular good topic, right? The particular good topic become bigger. It becomes more clearer, it becomes more stronger, right? It takes over your brain. But if you stop touching that particular topic, it's not telling you that, that is not important. Stop touching, you start touching other, then the rest will grow and it will reach a stage whereby the rest will squeeze this particular growth into a small corner. Right? Let me show you what basically am I talking about. So if this is a framework, right? Can this also be a framework? Right, yeah. Correct, right? So now if you take a look at this, right, this particular person is going to be much more, I can tell you this person is going to be much more stable. The bigger your framework, actually, the more stable you are. So which means that when you start to see another person, the person is acting up in such a manner, because you have a much larger framework, right? You understand what this particular person is going through. It does not surprise you. It do not surprise you. Right? So this is like when you're looking at the kids. When the fella is holding a lollipop, ice cream, and the lollipop and ice cream drop onto the floor, drop onto the park. The fella very sad. Like the entire world just collapsed. You as an adult, when you look at the situation, it's like, buy new lah. Because your framework is different, right? Your framework is much bigger than the kids, right? The kids only have a few things in their life. The ice cream is one of the important things in their life at that current moment, and the ice cream has been magnified into such a big thingy, right? And then plus the mother always come and say that, oh, ice cream very expensive, we cannot afford ice cream, you have to treasure the ice cream. And the kids always see other people don't have ice cream, right? And then the fellow have ice cream, so the ice cream become important, it become overblown, magnified, and then it drops. World collapse for this particular kid. Ice cream no more, mom's gonna kill me. Right? But when you look at this particular kid, are you surprised? No, you're not. You're completely not surprised at all. And then, in your brain, it's like, it's just an ice cream, dear. You have more ice cream in your life. All right. So, the part of it where you try to convince the little brats that there are more ice cream in your life, right? It's not going to work, because the kids only got this much life at this current moment. And the fella just lost the ice cream. The fella doesn't know that there are more life. Cannot explain. Same thing, if your friend just lost the loved one, as in, the girlfriend just dumped him. You will find other girl one. 10 yup, I confirm to you. Won't go into the ears one. Cannot. It just won't work. Okay? Because why? The fella doesn't have a framework. The fella framework is like this, right? Especially, the fella just have that particular girl. The girl is important, right? The fella don't have any experience with other girl. So how? You tell me. Won't work, no? Your convincing won't work. Yeah, so you have to take different approach. Can I understand? Right? So what happens if it's like this? Right? Can a framework be like this one, Right? Like country leader. Their framework probably look like this. They got more important thing to worry about, Not only I have to worry about myself, I have to worry about, my country's safety. I have to worry about, how's the relationship between my country and your country. I have to worry that, I might wrongly step on your foot and you might nuclear launch on me, right? So, a country leader would have, this sort of framework, very different. Right? Very different the way that they are thinking, it's much more bigger picture. They got much more things that is happening at the same time. So if you are like this, right, nothing is too important than anything. This one is very difficult for you to blow any single thing up. Right? So that's why when you see, a lot of country leader, it's like they are okay with certain amount of citizens dying. You are not. Right? The way that, you look at it is like, oh, every life is important. It's normal citizen thinking. To them, is that, losing 2,000 fella to stop a full-blown country war is worth it, right? So the 2,000 fellow can just go lah, right? It's because their framework is different. That's it. The vantage point that they look at the situation become very different. Makes sense, huh? So this one, in building a bigger framework, you can do one. That's what I'm trying to ask you to do. So when you are a director, your framework is very different than the actor. The actor, the framework is that I just need to act this particular scene and this is my thing. They got a script, they just follow the script. When you are a audience, you just watch the movie. Your job is to watch the movie. But when you are a director, you get to change the movie, change the feel of the movie. So I'm trying to put you onto the director seat. And for you to be on director seat, the first thing you need to do is that you need to be able to walk out of your own personal framework. So you need to be aware that there is such thing called framework in the world. But if not, it doesn't work. Right? Can it be like this or not? Right? Can you see that the framework can expand, contract, and when expand, contract that time, right? The rest of it that get expanded, it's not suddenly appear, It's always been there. Right? Everything in the universe has always been there. It's just whether you see or you don't see it. Right? So it's like, for example, your neighbor. Your neighbor has always been there. Whether you know your neighbor, what is happening to your neighbor, it's like it's not in focus, so you don't care about your neighbor nowadays. Does it mean that your neighbor don't exist because you don't care about your neighbors? No. Right? Understand or not? Right? So now whether to include your neighbor or not into your life, that one is up to you to choose. If you include your neighbor, there are certain time whereby you'll be able to use your neighbor. Right, help out, so like, during festive season, if you decide to include your neighbor, mean that, you prepare some of the festive cookie and, give it to your neighbors. Ask about, how's your neighbors' children, those are the things that you can do to foster, include, right? So your framework, how you change your framework, who you include in, who you want to touch, who you want to do, is all depend on you. Depend on you, externally, very difficult to do this, you have to do this from internal. It's an internal exercise, right? So just take a look at this, right? So like this one, again, it's just expanding the framework, right? This one can be unlimitedly expanded. Yep, this can go unlimited, right? So that's why I tell you there's no right framework, there's no wrong framework. No, there's no right and wrong framework, right? Some people's framework are just larger than yours. So they are better at inclusivity. Some people framework are very tiny. Right. So now this is one also, touch on this particular idea of abundance and scarcity. A person is of abundance when the framework is large. When you have a large framework, you usually have abundance. Right. So when your framework is tiny, you usually scarcity mindset is heavy. Make sense, huh? All right. So let's go back. All right. So now, are you at the director chair yet? Do you want to be at the director chair? Right. So the use of Chinese metaphysics, the 5 art, is to assist you to reach this state. Right. Qigong, you can reach the Mingjue state. Chinese medicine, you can reach the Mingjue state. Bazi, you can reach the Mingjue state. The Qigong, you can reach the Mingjue state. It's just that your willingness to actually step out of whatever framework that you have and to look at this particular situation in a way that I am able to expand this particular framework. Right. Make sense? Right? Make sense, right? So now go back to the initial fella who has, relationship was everything. So this was the initial framework. Relationship was everything. I didn't say that this is wrong. Never said that this particular thing is wrong, right? So, but if let's say that you were to change your own framework, right? You will change your own framework and you change your own framework to like this. Now, the relationship is still important. Yeah, the relationship is still like freaking big, it's still important. But if it's in this particular framework, how much is the relationship going to impact on you? This is changing framework. So when you are doing a consult, it doesn't matter whether it's a Bazi consult, it's a Feng Shui consult, it's a Qigong consult. You are trying to reach this state. Is that you're gonna tell this particular person that there are options out there that you have not explored. I'm not trying to tell you that the Bazi answer is correct. I'm just trying to tell you that there are other options out there. Right, so let us both help each other in exploring the option. And the charts that you have, your Bazi chart, your Qigong chart, your Feng Shui chart, is actually a guidance for you to take a look at where are the places for you to explore, start to understand that. Now, once you understand that, which means that it's like the director taking the script and, flipping the pages, right? You yourself is the actor, you only look at the parts that you are playing. You only remember the line that has to associate with this part, right? So you immerse yourself as acting in that particular, so you don't know about the other part that is happening. Right? So the same thing also when you're making a movie at that time. Do you know that when they're making a movie at that time, they actually don't film it in sequence, right? They film in different, so different actor will film their parts, right? They'll film their parts, then all of them get stitched together by this fellow called editor. They will stitch everything together. That's how they do movie, by the way. Right? So you don't just, film, in sequence. They don't do that. Okay, right? So, this is where you go, right? So now this is where you want to achieve. Nothing wrong, if from one of your frame, certain thing is more heavier, but if you are able to look out, right? Able to look out means it's like this, right? So, okay, this particular woman, girl, guy, dog, cat, walk out of your life, very important to you. Just walk out of your life, walk out, drop dead, whatever it is. Right now, you need to take a look at it. If you over focus on this particular situation of walking out, it's going to be miserable. Right. So again, right, go back, think about it. Parents still alive, healthy. What are you going to do about your healthy parents and alive parents? You're really going to focus all your time on this particular girl who has walked out, the cat who has walked out, and ignore about your healthy parent. And what you're gonna wait until your parent not healthy, right, having problem, then only you're gonna focus here. Too late. What about your financials? Are you doing enough things about your maintaining your financial size? All right. So if you happen to have children, right, so even your cat have mini cats, right, and they are bubbly and happy. So like my daughter, I call her Sunshine. My son, I call him Bubble. Yeah, I call them. So yeah, my daughter is always like Sunshine, right? My little boy is always very active, running around. So he's like a bubble, bouncy, doom, all over the places. You're gonna spend time with them. They are alive, happily. Spend time with them. Why are you putting so much importance onto this particular cat, girls, guys? You explain to yourself because your framework right now is not working the correct. So you expand your framework. Now the kids come into the picture, the parent come into the picture, your other friend come into the picture, financials come into the picture, personal growth come into the picture. My YouTube channel come into the picture. I need to spend time doing this. Yeah, I'm gonna spend like for the next few years doing this, guys. Do you think it come into the picture? They come into the picture, right? Everything basically come in the picture, right? So I have to reorganize the entire excursion thingy. To be reorganized, to remagic the entire thing, right? You think don't need time, no need brain power. So as all this thing goes in, right, I don't have energy to put into this particular girl issue. Right? Probably I left about 5% energy to put into the girl. Time give attention. Got time give attention. I'm not saying that this girl is not important. Leave her alone. Got time give attention. If she want to have my attention, then come and get my attention. If you don't need my attention, bye. Right? At the same time also, explore other people. You start to see. I hope you start to see. Right? So that is where I'm trying to bring you. Right? So if you want to change, you need to be able to move your framework. And you can only move your framework internally. Externally, very difficult for you to do that. So the moment you tell yourself that, okay, I want to change, I'm willing to go through the change process, this is when a consult becomes very useful. Because the consult, Bazi, Qi Feng Shui is designed to give you option, because the chart is impartial. Yeah, the chart is impartial. Right? The chart just tell you at this current moment, this other energy that's available, these other things that's going to happen. If you go with the flow, it will be better. If you go against the flow, you will suffer a bit. Right? Because why the situation will change right? Energy chart will change. My Qi chart every 2 hours will change. Right? If you would die want to do it in this particular manner, you just take the repercussion. That's all. Right? If not, then just chill. Right? Chill. They're gonna be one time that you can do the thing they want to do. Cool, guys. Right? Yeah, like Yeah, 1.5 hours. I can talk, right? So, moving forward, a lot of things that when I share with you, I will be moving into talking about framework. So this is gonna be something that we're gonna talk about. So hopefully, when I use the word framework, or I use the word 明觉 at that time, you guys start to understand that, okay, it's the particular process of moving yourself out of my own framework and basically extending the scope of framework to see that what are the other options that's available, what are the things that have not been seen. Am I too focused on one thing that I have overblown the thing into a bigger portion? More importantly, it's just telling you that there's nothing wrong with that, right? I'm just a farmer who doesn't understand programming. Nothing wrong with it, right? So it's now question is that can I extend my farming experience to now include programming? And do you know that farmer right now use drones to do all the crops? Pesticide. They don't go into the crops and pesticide. They just program the drone. They just let the crops take the pesticide and then the drone will go through the grids. Right? So the program actually have a grids already. The drone will fly. It's like your house automatic floor sweeper. Yeah, it's fun. It's fun. And so the farmer don't need to go into the field to administer all the what we call your pesticide. Right? So they even have robots that can go in between the farm and it laser shoot weeds. Right? So normally you need to go there and pull the weed out. No, the robot, you put that at night, it will just go and then go. Morning you come back, all the weed is gone. Right? So next night, run again. Yeah. Now farmer can learn programming or not? Yeah. Right? Now their scope is bigger. Now you include programming. So what about the galactic trader? Not yet. Right? Not yet. Right? But can you accept if there's the galactic trader? One day you'll be able to accept it. Cool, can do. Right? So that's basically it for today. Right? So anything you guys wanna get in touch with me, there is Facebook. You can get in touch with me. The Telegram channel open back already. Come and join the Telegram channel. Right? So it's basically there. The discussion page also I opened back already, so you guys can discuss anything. I don't have an Insta. Insta is all about food. My Insta is another world, right? So my Insta is called Eating Gods, right? So you can go and find my Insta, Eating God. It just posts food only. TikTok haven't done anything yet. Threads haven't done anything. What else? LinkedIn also haven't done anything yet, right? So anyway, right? So one day I will touch on the rest of the thing. But right now it's just YouTube. The Facebook we have a fan page. Thank you, Catherine, for gathering all the fans together. Right? So that's basically the French connection. Right? So you guys can pager me on Facebook. I just reinstalled the Facebook Messenger. Last time delete already. Right now install everything back already, right? So that's it. Right. So for this particular channel, I will do as per can. Hopefully, can go back to the daily, because like tomorrow I have to go and do training, right, in KL, so I won't be able to do broadcast tomorrow. Training is 2 days. Then after that, I have to go Kedah. Yes, I travel to Kedah, to do training as well. So for the next 2 days also don't have. Then Friday I will be able to do a session, right? So Friday we will go back and start doing back those boring Bazi stuff, right? With a new twist, right? So with a new twist, new information, we start to rebuild back all the fundamental content, right? So fundamental content, whatever achievement, whatever it is, eventually we'll finish everything. Hopefully it doesn't take another 3 years. Okay, right? So all of it, right? So we'll start to rebuild everything. So every now and then I will include in a bit of a qigong related information, all this 5-part information, all this conceptual information. We start to rebuild everything, right? So it's going to be a brand new channel, brand new experience, right? So like usual, please, if you have not subscribed to the YouTube channel yet, please hit the subscribe button, right? And more importantly, share this particular thing out to the rest of your friends who is still in the lost in space, still trying to search me. Don't forget Peng Shui, right? So I will start with Peng Shui. Yeah, 60 pillar didn't finish, right? Restart, do everything, right? So yeah, so actually you want the 60 pillars is in the newsletter, right? So it's a newsletter. It is exclusive for the paid member, right? So I'm right now preparing another one more exclusive for the paid member one, which is property selection guide. Right? So I'm doing a property selection guide, right? So I'll be publishing that, as a very long-winded thingy, to teach you all how to select property. It's a feng shui article. So we do that, right? So inside a Substack, right? When you start publishing every day, you will get certain part of it, right? So get it done. All right, cool. All right, that's it, guys. Thank you very much, for basically coming in. I'm trying to figure this one out. It's supposed to be transparent. I think the code is not working. I need to go and search for a new transparent code. Right? So or else, I can leave you guys here to look at things. How do I turn on transparency? But never mind. I will figure it out. I need to refigure all the software out. All right, bye. See you guys.